Good work today. I'll take over the rest. You can rest easy and look for your next job."
I didn't know what he meant. I was confused. We were about to start an important business meeting. What the hell is he talking about? He blurts out at the sight of me.
"I like that look on your face. You're fired today. That's what I'm saying."
At this moment, I was convinced of my boss's intentions. My name is Mike. I'm 36. I'm a salesman for a food company. Our company is particularly focused on products using vegetables. We grow tomatoes and sweet potatoes in the company. Recently, thanks to my efforts, I was offered a business meeting with a big company. I bowed down to them over and over again, and my enthusiasm was well received.
"Mike, you're amazing, huh? They are from that famous confectionery company, aren't they?"
The section chief and his colleagues kept saying to me. They told me to keep up the good work. I was even more motivated. I wonder if a half-breed like Mike can really get a contract. Then a loud voice interrupts and the air becomes tense.
"Isn't he really awesome?"
But the manager at the top of the voice sniffles and looks at me coldly.
"Oh, I don't know,"
he said, staring at me coldly. I don't really like him. A few years ago, when he was still the previous president of the company, he was in the personnel department. He became the head of the sales department. He's always picking on his subordinates. He seems to be the kind of person who likes to put others down and raise himself up. If any mistake was made, the manager would shout abuse at his subordinates as if he had been waiting for them. That's why everyone hates him. Business meetings with big companies. You're not going to do it all by yourself, are you? I shook my head at his question. The main business meeting will be arranged by me. But the preparation for the meeting, such as preparing documents, would be too much for me to do alone. I thought it would be reassuring to have someone available to help.
"I think it would be more reassuring for you to have someone like me in a higher position in a large company. Let me help you."
An unexpected statement by the general manager causes a stir. Of all people, with the head of the department? But he's not wrong. I don't think well of him because of his usual behavior, but he's a man who could have been the head of the department. He must be a reassuring ally.
"If you go to these lengths, then I'd be obliged."
I decided to accept his offer. I can see that refusing to do it in the first place would not be a good idea. The director nodded his head in satisfaction, which I immediately regretted. It's been some time since I accepted the department head's offer, and not once has the department head helped me prepare for a business meeting. No, once as an intermediate step. I had him read me a summary of the presentation schedule of progress, and he said, "That's fine, isn't it?" He just skimmed through it lightly, and this is what he said easily. I wonder if he's really committed to doing it. I'm the only one who can work and gather information, and I'm the only one who can't ask for help because I'm busy. I was already at my wit's end, so I asked other employees if they had any openings. But the director is shrewd in these matters. Everyone I've visited has said this apologetically. The director of the department told me very strictly not to help you. I had no idea what was going on, and I held my head in my hands. The manager, who couldn't help but notice me, gave me a warning to the boss, but I got back at him and was forced to do a lot of work due to harassment. The manager apologized, but really, I should be the one apologizing. But then I glanced at the head of the department. What does he want? My eyes meet the director's as my mind descends into turmoil. What are you doing? If you've got time on your hands, move them. If this business meeting fails, it's your fault. How could you say that? I swallow desperately the words that are about to come out of my throat. The chief patted me lightly on the back, as if to soothe me. I was working late one night, with only a few hours left before a business meeting. As usual, there is no sign of any help from the department head, and I'm starting to wonder if I'll be okay heading into the business meeting as it is. Saying you're not helping is the same as saying you don't understand anything. Only in my head do I have a picture of what kind of faith and how to approach it. I guess it was a good thing I worked overtime, because fortunately, I was able to make progress on my schedule on my own. I was looking at the screens of social networking sites and websites of business partners to gather information, when I suddenly noticed something and stopped. Huh? Could this be? I'm reading all the information on the internet related to one business meeting after another. I exhaled heavily as the maybe turned into a sure thing. After all, I must say I didn't do enough research in my restless state. The outcome of a business meeting is determined by how helpful we can be to fulfill the ideals of our business partners. I was working on data to promote the appeal of our vegetables and how beneficial it would be to commercialize them as a household achievement. But as it is now, it won't be enough to fulfill the ideals of the other side. We're almost there, but there's still time. I told myself it was a good thing I'd noticed. It's a change from the original plan, but it can't be helped. I blackmailed myself into thinking I was almost there. A few days later, the day of the business meeting arrived. I nervously head to my business partner with the general manager. The director ended up only looking over the material once in the beginning. My seniors taught me that the company is a team player, but I'm totally my own solo player. If anything goes wrong with this, they will hold me responsible. But I was confident in the material I had prepared. If I'm reading my documents correctly, I'm sure the business meeting will go well. That's why we need the department heads to get their act together now. Please check while I'm driving. I handed the material to the boss. However, the boss sat down on the back seat, and instead of reading the material, he politely put an eye mask and began to sleep. What is this guy really following me for? I'm getting angry. I pulled into the nearest unattended parking lot to the business meeting, and with a sigh, called out to the manager. Sir, please wake up. I call out to him, and he raises his eye mask. I've arranged for you to arrive a little early so we can have a prep meeting, but I don't think you've read all the materials and know what you're going to do. When I suggested this, he yawned, got out of the car, and began to stretch out carefree. As you can imagine, I got frustrated and said, I'm serious about this. Please, let me have a meeting with you, at least, at the end. At my worst, the boss turns around in a stretched position. Contrary to my exasperated look, the manager has a relaxed expression on his face. And then the boss smiled at me as he put the materials left in the back seat into his own bag. I'll take over the rest, and you can go ahead and find a new job with no worries. I'll take over the rest, and you can look forward to your next job with peace of mind. Huh? I don't know what it means. I'm baffled. And the director blurts it out. I like that look on your face. You're fired today. That's what I'm saying. What are you talking about? I'm fired? The boss's words echoed within me. There's no way he could fire me on his own. There's no legitimate reason for me to be fired. I wonder if the director thinks I'll believe him if he tells me in person. It's nothing short of ridiculous. This moment blew me away. Well, I have one last thing to tell you.
You have no say in this. I know you're frustrated that I'm taking all the credit, but give up and just accept the termination.
I'm still convinced that's the intention. Forcing me to do all the hard work and taking the best part for yourself. I think that's what he's trying to do. And they want to keep me out of it by saying I'm fired, which I would dispute. Well, we all know that there is no justification for that termination. Well, that's just the way it is then. I was inwardly chuckling at the head of the department, who stopped me without a pause. The boss snatches from me a bag containing materials and other documents to be distributed to those promoted. I silently watched the back of the boss as he walked away in high spirits. I guess it's time to start the business meeting. I glance up at the clock and mutter to myself. I was driving back to the office in my company car. I'm now informing my manager of the fact that I've been fired by my department head. I knew it was too weird that the boss said he would help and then did nothing, but I guess he was trying to take credit for it. The manager furrows his brow and takes a breath. No matter what you do, Mike, you are not at fault. I know you worked very hard for today's business meeting, and so does everyone else. I checked with HR just to be sure. You haven't been given a termination letter, so don't worry about that. The manager's reassuring words put my mind at ease. A short time later, I got an incoming call on my company phone from the boss. Time is less than an hour after the start of the business meeting. I ask if I can take the call to the people who were there and picked up the phone. As soon as I touched the call button, I heard my boss ranting and I frowned.
Mike, can you put me on speaker mode? We'll be quiet.
I nod to the boss's words and do as instructed. What in the world can I do for you now that you fired me?
Hey, what's with that presentation content? This is a big difference from what I heard at first. Mike, you set me up.
I couldn't help but look at the people around me. You know how long it's been since the first proposal that you mentioned? How long do you think it's been since then? I regularly asked you to review the contents of the proposal. But the boss refused to talk to me, saying he was busy and didn't even give me much advice. There are many emotional and incoherent points, but in summary, here they are. The general manager visited the business meeting place alone with the materials I had prepared. I heard that the person in charge of the other company looked at him strangely when I wasn't there, but the general manager lied and said I had resigned and somehow managed to push through. So the business meeting began, but the general manager looked at the documents and turned pale. The general manager thought he was presenting what he had seen once when I reported on the progress of the project, and was confused by the material that contained completely different information. I respond to the boss, who rants about deceit and cowardice. At first, we wanted to promote the appeal of vegetables grown at our company and propose sweets using vegetables. But as we proceeded with the preparations, I obtained some important information.
What the heck? I didn't hear anything important. No matter how much they prodded me, I never failed to report back.
I don't want to be told you didn't hear at a time like this. I'm sure the manager and everyone else can attest to that. I always tried to check in with the boss or contact him, but he wouldn't listen to me. And now for the important information. I explained, remembering the night that led to the change of materials. I was working overtime, checking their websites and social networking sites to gather information. That's when I noticed the personal blog of the president of the other party. The president's dog and cat were shown in many of his postings. Apparently, he is quite an animal lover, and recently he has been holding company-sponsored shelter animal giveaways a few times a year. I thought that they might be interested in animal-related businesses, and I thought that I could better meet their interests and expectations by proposing treats for pets, using vegetables grown in our pesticide-free area rather than sweets, for home use. Of course, I tried to get the director to look at the reworked documents, but to no avail. To begin with, a presentation is not just a one-way conversation. One needs to respond flexibly to questions from the other party and etc. It is reckless for a boss who does not have a good grasp of the contents to enter into a business meeting alone. But perhaps he had been out of the office for a long time and his mind, or perhaps his feelings, had become slack. And it's a terrible state of affairs at that.
"You've done me a disservice," he said. "You've made me say things I shouldn't have." When I finished explaining everything, the director shouted in a voice that sounded like it was about to cry. "What do you mean?" As I mentioned earlier, the boss was confused when he tried to make a presentation because the content was completely unexpected. While the company manager and the president of the client company looked at him quizzically, the impatient boss assumed that I had misplaced the documents and blurted out, "I'm sorry." "I am so sorry. My subordinate Mike made a terrible mistake. I think I brought the wrong material. Your company is famous for sweets, and there's no way you're proposing treats for puppies in your presentation." The place froze, and it is not hard to imagine that the president of the other party's company contorted his face in anger. "I can't believe I'm calling you a dog for lack of a better word. I have a dog at home too, so I'm sure I'd be uncomfortable there too." "So you ended up running home with your tail between your legs? You told me I was fired right before the business meeting?" He sighed and said, "Damn, I thought I could get through to you that if I succeeded, the credit would be mine alone, and if I failed, you would take the blame and would be fired," he whined. "And why are you taking the company car home? Thanks to you, I have to take the train. I'll charge you for the train fare." He continued to ask me for money, which I didn't understand, and then he said, "Enough of this. You walk home." "No, think of your seat as gone." And the person yelling at me next to me said, "Wait, you don't mean the president? The president is here?" I nodded as the boss screamed, "Yes, and by the way, the manager is here too." The three of us were talking in the president's office. I was reporting on the boss when I received a call from him. The call came in just in time, so I asked the president and the manager to listen in as well. It saved me a lot of trouble. I say something sarcastic, and on the other end of the phone the boss is panicking. I was hoping to include you in the discussion later, but it doesn't seem necessary. According to the manager, your usual attitude is not exactly complimentary. I understand that you were promoted to the boss position when my father was president, but I wonder if his eyes were clouded. I'm not as naive as my father, so be prepared for the consequences. The president shakes his head at me as if to say, enough. The manager was still on the phone ranting about something, but I said, "I guess I'm not the one who's going to get fired today," and I hung up. No questions asked. "I promise you that I will work with HR to ensure that this will not happen again, and that we will strive to create a better workplace." "You two, that was really tough, wasn't it?" "As president, I'm really sorry I wasn't paying attention." "No, I sincerely apologize." The president stood up and bowed deeply. After that, the boss was demoted to take responsibility for his daily conduct, his treatment of me, and the failure of the business meeting. He has now moved to the area where he grows his own pesticide-free vegetables and is working to control pests and weeds. His body screams from the unaccustomed work, and it is widely rumored that the veteran workers are half in tears every day when they are told that their work is too messy. When my manager and I went to the confectionery company to apologize again, we received a call from the president of the company who said, "Your presentation was terrible, but the materials we saw were very interesting, and we'd like to hear the details in your presentation again." This time, the manager supported me. In the business meeting, was a great success. I'm planning to visit my parents' dogs next time I visit their home with a souvenir of the commercialized pet-friendly sweets.